Hello and welcome to Kim's Cozy Corner. We are back and we are planting all kinds of goodness, but we're only planting one thing today, and that one thing is tomatoes. I have 60 different varieties of tomatoes that we are going to start today. Well, here we are again. It's tomato season time, and it's time for us to get our tomatoes started. Now, tomatoes are a staple in our garden, and I grow so many different varieties of tomatoes that this video is only about tomatoes. Now, I have my garden journal here, and in my garden journal, in the very front of my book here, I have my garden vegetable plan on when I need to start my seeds, when I need to transplant my seeds, when I actually started my seeds, I should say. And according to my book here, based on my last frost date, I needed to start my tomatoes around the middle of March. I have down here March 15th. Today is March 9th. It's the weekend, and so we have to take advantage of the weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and mark in the book that we're doing these on 3/9. Now, tomatoes, depending on where you live in the country, you might be able to direct sow outside. I am in Zone 6, Southwest Ohio. My last frost date is typically around the last of April, and because of that, I can't direct sow and get a large harvest before the frost comes back in the fall. So in order for me to have a longer harvest season, I need to start my seeds indoors and transplant them out when the ground warms up. And that'll get me a faster harvest. It'll come in sooner, and I will be able to harvest fruits longer to provide a year's supply of tomatoes for my family, my neighbors, and friends. Now, in the very front of my garden journal here, I have a reference table. And in this reference table, it says for tomatoes, days to harvest is usually 55 to 95 days, and that's after you transplant. And they need full sunlight, and you only grow them in the warm season. So with that being said, my warm season is not that long, so we're starting seeds now. If you're interested in this garden journal, there'll be a link in the description below, and you can purchase this on Amazon. And I love my little book. I've had a few people buy it and say they love it as well. It's very economical from a price standpoint. So if you're interested, it'll be in the link below. But let's get to these tomatoes. For the tomatoes, if you want to know, in my mind, the ins and outs of all the different tomatoes out there, I have a video out there, and here's a picture of the cover to that video that talks about 70 different varieties and types of tomatoes that either I'm growing this year or I chose not to grow this year. It's my personal opinion, but it might be something you're interested in versus you having to try a tomato and finding out later that you're not interested in that tomato. And usually that's after a whole season of growing it. But out of those 70 tomato varieties and a few extra that I picked up that I didn't talk about, I've decided on 60 different tomatoes that we're going to grow this year. Now, if you're growing tomatoes only for the production, only so that you can make your tomato sauces and chilies and tomato paste and those type things, if you're growing only for the produce, then you might not want 60 different varieties. But I just enjoy growing tomatoes, and I love looking at all the different shapes and colors, and I still need a year's supply. So I make sure I grow my Old Faithfuls so I can get a good harvest, but I like to play around a little bit. And maybe you don't have the space to do that, so you can play around through me with what I'm sharing this season. So let me go ahead and share with you the tomatoes that I'm going to start today. And I'll try to put a picture of everything up here, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into the details of the different types of tomatoes. I encourage you to check out this video here if you're interested in more details on the different tomatoes that I'm growing. So let's just go ahead and jump right in because there's 60 tomatoes. I don't want an hour video. I want to try to keep it as short as I possibly can. But we're going to grow Super Sweet 100. I got these from a seed share. Here's a picture of Super Sweet 100. We're going to grow that one today. We're going to grow this True Beefsteak or Fiji Improved. It's got two different names. We're going to do some dwarf tomatoes as well. We're going to do a Tiny Tim. We're going to do Orange Hat, and here's a picture of Orange Hat right there, another dwarf tomato. Excuse me, micro dwarf tomatoes. So Tiny Tim and Orange Hat are micro dwarf tomatoes. Another micro dwarf tomato we're going to grow is the Red Robin. These are all micro dwarf right now. We're going to do Rosy Finch, Micro Tom, and for the ones I don't have pictures, pictures are right here. We're doing a Patio Choice. Yes, that's a micro dwarf as well. Patio Choice, here's a picture of that one. And that's it for the micro dwarf tomatoes. And then we're going to get to what I call bush tomatoes or dwarf tomatoes. We're going to do a bush steakhouse. Here's a picture of that. Bush steakhouse. Actually, here's the picture. Bush steakhouse. And then all of the rest of these are dwarf tomatoes, and the package doesn't have a picture, so the picture will be right here. So we will be doing Tasty Wine, Hannah's Prize, the new Big Dwarf, Dwarf Beauty King. We're going to do the Dwarf Purple Heart, Rosella Crimson, Brandy Fred, Rosella Purple. We're still on dwarf tomatoes, y'all. We're going to do the Chocolate Lightning. We're also going to do Tasmanian Chocolate as well. Dwarf Wild Spud Leaf. Yeah, and I can't pronounce this one. Yeah, there it is right there, the bottom of the page here. And there's the picture of it right there. I can't pronounce it. I'm going to mess it up. We're going to do the Sweet Scarlet Dwarf as well. The Dwarf Golden Gypsy. We're going to do the Summer Sweet Gold. We're still on dwarf tomatoes. We're almost through them though. Actually, that was it. That was the last dwarf tomato. Dwarf tomatoes can be indeterminate, semi-determinate, or determinate. And if you want more information on that, that's just how quickly they put fruit on. It talks about, do they put fruit on all at once or over time? It's all in my other video. I really recommend you checking out the other video. But now we're going to move on to other tomatoes. I'm going to also do cherry tomatoes. So we're going to do Camp Joy. We're going to do the black cherry. Here's a picture of the black cherry. Sun Gold. Champagne Bubbles. Kozy, I can't say it. Here's the picture of it, and I'll put the words up there. Cluj Yellow, I think is what it is. Cluj Yellow. Black Strawberry. And now we're going to move into paste tomatoes. We're going to do Korean long, Opalka, Super Sauce Hybrid, pictures over here, Big Mama, Pink Oxheart, Lenny's Oxheart, here's a picture over there, Italian Heirloom. Now these are more paste style tomatoes. They're not all traditional paste tomatoes, but there are very few seeds in them. And now I'm going to move over into more slicing tomatoes. Some of them are red, some of them are a dark black color, some of them orange. There are many different shades, but more into slicing beef steak type tomatoes. We're going to do Cherokee Purple, True Black Brandywine, Black Beauty, Black Crim, Black from Tula, Paul Robeson, and there are two, they're not really tomatoes, but they're ground cherries. We're going to do the New Hanover ground cherry. We're going to do the Aunt Molly's ground cherry as well. I've never grown ground cherries, so I'm really excited about those. We're going to do a Great White. Here's the picture. Hillbilly, Big Rainbow, Pineapple, Kellogg's Breakfast, Dr. Whitey's, Orange Jazz, Super Beefsteak, and these are 10-year-old seeds. Let's see if we can get them to grow. And I'm sure they will grow. We're on the home stretch now. We're going to grow Delicious. And here's a picture of the Delicious right there. It's a beefsteak tomato. We're going to do Bodacious, Steak Sandwich, Steak House. Here's the picture. Super Steak. We're going to do Church. Here's the picture of Church. Druzba. I'm not sure how you really say that. Druzba. These seeds were given to me, and we're going to grow those for a family friend. And Kostra Lee. Those are our 60 tomato varieties. Last year, I think I grew 50, I believe it was 50. This year, we're starting at 60. Now, before the season's over, I'm probably going to be closer to 70 because I have volunteers that come up in the garden from things that I've planted in years past. And I may not have them on the table for this year, but if they come up in the garden as volunteers, we're going to plant them somewhere else and we're going to find a home for them. So 60 different types of tomatoes this year. And for the tomatoes, I already have my little containers set for them. They're all labeled up and ready to go. For my seed starting mix, I like to use Jiffy Organic Seed Starting Mix. You can use whatever you feel works best for you. You can make your own. You can purchase, compost and use it. I've heard people use compost, potting mix, whatever you choose to use, but I prefer to start with a seed starting mix. And I get boiling water and I put over that seed starting mix to kill off any kind of larvae or insects. I should say unwanted larvae and insects, because we are in an indoor growing space. If I was outside, I probably wouldn't do that. So to plant the tomatoes, follow the directions on your seed pack. So whatever the depth is on your seed pack, that's how deep we plan on planting these. All right. Burpee says I need to plant my tomato seeds about 1/4 of an inch deep. And I believe that's what I've read in many other places. So your seed pack says how deep you need to plant it and how quickly you need to start it. And according to this, I should start indoors 6 to 8 weeks before my last frost. And I am right at 6 weeks before my last frost. So I'm right on time. So let's talk about how we're going to do this. Where's my coastal leaf? Let's find it. Let me put it close by so you can see what I'm doing. Now that I've brought you in close. So here's the cell for the seed I'm getting ready to start. And I'm starting anywhere from 4 to 6 seeds of each one of these varieties. So that's over 200 tomato plants that I'm going to start. Now some of these are for my seed cell. My plant cell, not seed cell. Starting seeds now for my plant cell. So for this particular variety, I'm planting 4 seeds. Now, if all 4 come up, great. I'm going to take all 4. If all 4 don't come up, I got backups if I have poor germination. So I put the 4 seeds right on top, and I am just going to lightly push them into the soil. That's the process. It's that simple. Doesn't take a whole lot. It's super simple on how to do this. And I'm going to do this for all 60 tomatoes. And once I finish doing this, I will bring you back and I'll show you how we're going to water them in. I will show you how we're going to set them up in my indoor grow space, which is right behind me. Oh, I only had one steakhouse. Oh, I might not have any steakhouse this year. I didn't know I was out. I'll have to make up with some of the other varieties. Now I am starting in very small cells, and if you got room to start in a larger cell where you don't need to up pot, please do that. I don't have that much space in my indoor grow tent with the number of grow lights and things that I have, or I should say growing spaces, seed starting stations. And so I have to start small and work my way up as I'm moving cool season crops out into the garden. Then I can up pot and I'll have more space. I mean, I wanted a few more seeds of these, but I wasn't trying to get 50. Beef steaks are my favorite variety, so I always grow more beef steaks than I do anything else. All right, I have all of these tomatoes in. They are in. They're going to grow beautifully, but we got to make sure that we water them properly. So let me show you how we're going to water these tomatoes to make sure we don't have any issues from a poor watering standpoint, as well as building fungus on top of the cells. Now, I like to water all of my plants from the bottom, unless I'm starting seeds. If I'm starting seeds, I actually do both. I'm trying to make some room here. So we're going to water from the bottom. I'm going to fill my container because my seed starting mix is actually pretty dry. So I'm going to fill the small cell about 1/4 up. This small one here about 1/4 of a way full. This larger one, we are going to fill it at least 1/4 full, if not more, because it's soaking it up quickly. And we're going to water from the top because these are seedlings. I want to get a jump start. And I also found when you spray a cell from the top, it'll help suck up that water from below. I don't know how or the science behind that wicking effect, but it does work. So this one, I have the tops all watered and we're pulling in water from the bottom. So we'll set it to the side. And so now let me spray the tops of all of these. It's a lot of cells to be spraying. Hands getting tired. So these containers will continue to absorb that water until all of my little cells are nice and moist. And then we're not going to water again until the soil turns a light brown, and then we're going to water from the bottom again. So now we're going to go ahead and move over into the indoor grow space. I think I'm going to have to make a little room. So this is one of my indoor grow lights, and I'm going to actually lower it to get it closer. I just remember this is a real grow light. I don't need to be that close. I do that for my shop lights. I get right up above it. But since this is a true grow light, I'm going to give it just a little more space. I don't want to burn those young seedlings when they finally do break ground. So I'm going to leave it just a little bit higher. So let's get it turned on. So it's turned on. The plants are in here. They're still absorbing a little bit of that water, but these plants are in and they're ready to go. And in probably about a week, because my grow tent is nice and warm, in about a week, these are going to pop their little heads out and they're going to start reaching up for the light. So I need to make sure that light is available, which it is. This particular light is on a timer. So the lights come on and they stay on for about 14 to 16 hours, and then they go off and stay off overnight. So there will be the simulation of daylight where the lights come on and they go off. So if they poke their little heads out, then the light will be right there and they won't get long and lanky. They'll be nice, short, thick stems, and that's what we're looking for. On this shelf right here, I have another little grow light here that I don't have to be directly on top of the young seedlings. And this one is actually very powerful. So I have it unplugged. I'm going to have to go plug this one up and get it turned on. You know what? I've changed my mind. I am going to move this one up to another light so I don't have to use this high-powered one. The more power you have with your grow lights, of course, the more electricity you're going to use, the more power it's going to cost, the more it's going to cost you. So I have one all the way up that's not as powerful as this one, so we can save a couple pennies, right, on electricity. So let's move this one up to another space. So this is the top shelf. I really don't use it that often. Because I can't get my lighting too high up above it. But we have these in, they're ready to go. Let's turn it around so we can see our little names here. So I will bring you back in about a week and I'll show you how my young tomato seedlings are doing. And at that time, we'll know who's coming to the party. So if you haven't started your young tomato seedlings yet, you might want to look at getting those started because we're getting really close. Even for those folks who are below me from a zone in last frost date, you should be getting those in the ground now. I hope you enjoyed another seed starting video. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up. We are going to be moving outside really, really soon. And consider subscribing to the channel. I'll have tons and tons more video to come. So until next time, and I hope there will be a next time that you come back to Kim's Cozy Corner. Bye.